What's
Yeah.
up, sons? It's Blind Red with Son of a Tech once again, and today joining me is co-founder of Raptoreum, Mr. David here, and we are going to chat about Raptoreum, of course, its uniqueness with the algorithm and mining it on a CPU, some of its ASIC and FPGA resistance that we got built in, all of the good stuff from the mining perspective, and then Raptoreum has a whole bunch of other stuff going on. There's game development going on, there's assets on layer 1 going on. Tons of stuff. So I'm super excited to have David here. Thanks for joining me today, sir.
Hey, my pleasure, Matthew. It's good to be here. Excited to be here. We just had that POW roundtable with Flux, so it's
Yeah.
good to follow up on that.
Yeah. How did
Get a
that
bit
go?
more
Did you
stuff out
enjoy
there.
that?
Yes, I did. I just don't think we got quite the time really needed to go around some of the questions. It was a limited format.
Was there something
Sometimes,
that stuck out to you that you wanted to discuss more, do you think?
well, stuff like, for example, transitioning projects from one form of proof of work to another form of proof of work, because
Okay.
you've got to look at why from the project's perspective, not just from the miner's perspective. It's all got to fit together, and there's got to be a purpose with the proof of work. For example, someone like Casper, they've front loaded their mission schedule so heavily that it makes perfect sense that they're transitioning to ASICs.
Mm-hmm.
uh, because otherwise they would lose an awful lot of their hashing security.
Right. Yeah. It's a
Um,
good point. That's something that I
and
think Shy was talking about the other day on Twitter. I was just reading a thread on that last night.
I mean, it also depends on what you want to use it for. We use our proof of work as one of the easiest ways to onboard users anywhere.
Right. So that's one of the big things about proof of work when we talk about onboarding new users for any project, right? The access to the equipment helps on that mines any proof of work coin helps onboard new users, right? So the
Yep.
lower barrier to entry means you have a higher kind of momentum on the entry level, right at the start of a project.
Not just right at the start of it, it's helping us reach out into some completely new areas. This morning, I talked to a couple of guys in Kenya with solar panels and a tiny little bit of hydro on how to set up some of the essentially junk office PCs that they'd gotten as a donation
Mm-hmm.
to mine when they're not being used for teaching kids how to code and how to
Awesome.
do it safely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we can be involved on a much more fundamental level. One of the biggest success stories from RTM, and one I like to repeat a lot, is we had a group of university students from a village in Chile,
Mm-hmm.
up in the Chilean mountains, who doing something similar using Dell PCs that were sent for recycling. They've powered them up. They got them up and running using a few broken solar panels, a little bit of hydro, there are some pictures of some very unsafe wiring from old washing machine engines that have been turned into generators.
Okay.
And they're running a bunch of old Dell machines that were supposed to be recycled. Those kids have now put in hydro for the village. This was back before we had even remotely optimized miners on the
Yeah.
network. So sure, AMD Threadrippers were doing better, but they weren't doing orders of magnitude better
Right.
like they are now post optimization.
It's pretty crazy. I've heard these stories before across, even taking old Antminer S9s and going to an undeveloped country. There seems to be, less restrictions. It gives these villages that are traditionally, kind of down economically a way to participate within,
Yeah,
cryptocurrency and actually improve their well-being, right? And I've seen this, I think I'll go with Chet and not go with the full name, but Chet, who will a guy I met that does this, will go around and help out, help a lot of these villages out with the hydropower, getting like an S9 on there, helping them monetize with that. And then also what that ends up doing is getting the whole village power, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that can be scaled out. This is one of the things about blockchain that's so awesome is you see it in the Texas power grid, where it's helped the Texas power grid scale out, winterize a lot of their hardware, and after the winter storms of Uri. And obviously that's at a much larger scale, but you can take that principle and apply it everywhere, and it appears to benefit society as a whole, right? Which is brilliant.
Yeah. Also, when we've got some of these woke mobs who focus on, ooh, it uses power, they don't look at things like, for example, Riot locating mining facilities in completely out of the way places where they basically use oil well gas flare gas that would just be burnt off into the atmosphere otherwise.
Yeah, it's actually better for the atmosphere, because instead of burning it off directly, you're running it through a natural gas generator, which is actually cleaning up that process. And like has been pointed out a multitude of times, but nobody seems to want to listen, is that the machines themselves are zero emissions, right? So it's no different than powering or charging your electric vehicle or powering any other appliance or your computer, right? So there seems to be a concerted effort to attack it from that perspective, when it doesn't seem to be a good attack vector when anybody is educated on the matter, right? It's kind of interesting to watch it play out now.
Yeah, I've got a couple of friends who are in central Borneo, close to the Malaysian-Indonesian border in Borneo, who are doing both hydro and flare gas mining, and they're buying up everybody's garbage miners.
Perfect.
They recycle them for components instead of cleaning them.
Yeah.
So the hash boards go there and they run till they die.
Yeah.
And then they get but they're doing a decent job. Then they break them down, they recover gold, they do metals recovery from the boards. And
the S17s and T17s seem to be the biggest ones that are being just hash boards being reflashed and merged together. I was talking to my neighbor out here. They repair hash boards next door. And he was saying, we don't even attempt to repair the S17 and T17s. He goes, we just take them and consolidate them, and then we trash the rest. Whereas if they get an S19 or something along those types of hash boards, they'll go ahead and repair. I don't know what it is specifically about those, but it seems to be a nightmare from what I've heard. There's a couple guys I've heard that are really good at repairing them. Austin Childress, for example. He's stateside here, I think, but
I haven't been in the US for a very long time, not since 2004 or 2006. I guest lectured at UCA Davis back then.
Okay, cool. So a little bit of history about you. We were talking a little bit before the show, and you have been mining for a very long time.
I was in crypto from basically the very start.
What got you interested in it?
Originally, being bored out of my head, driving a combine up and down fields, row after row after row.
Okay.
I'd bring William Gibson, Neuromancer, his Sprawl trilogy. I'd bring that, and I'd bring what was it? The other guy was called. Can't remember the name of the other guy, but it would be like, I'm up driving a combine. Okay, I've turned around. I've got time enough to read 2.5 pages before I get to the end of the field and have to turn around.
Okay, cool. Gotcha.
And the mobile I had on the combine, because when a combine's running, it mustn't stop.
Okay.
No matter what, it just it puts your whole harvest at risk if it stops. So the mobile phone I had on the Combine was a 15, 16 kilo briefcase. You had to lug up and down these stairs. It just wasn't funny. And that was where my whole fascination with tech started, and getting into programming. We did have, as one of the very first households on the island, a Commodore VIC-20.
Okay.
All the way back from when changing a program was inserting a new hardware cartridge.
Uh-huh.
Upgraded that to a ZX81 Spectrum.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
That was one of Alan Sinclair's computers that was so far ahead of its time, it kind of killed itself.
Gotcha.
Everybody else had 20 kilobytes of memory, and it all of a sudden had 84. And I mean, it took a while for Commodore to get up to the Commodore 64, which was pretty much what everybody started gaming and playing with and messing around with.
Right.
But the ZX81 Spectrum ended up sort of imploding, also because the keyboard was atrocious. It was like half the size of a regular keyboard, and you really had to sit there and
Okay.
I'm a fairly big guy, and sitting there with that keyboard, it was
nightmarish. So what was the first thing that what was the first piece of equipment that you mined with? And I'm assuming it was Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. Well, not quite Bitcoin. It was Bitcoin, if we're talking properly.
Okay.
There were some validation experiments going on with I don't know if you know Perfect Money.
No, I haven't heard of it.
It's sort of a semi-anonymous PayPal that still exists and works.
Okay.
Ideal for all your money laundering purposes.
Okay.
They tested some stuff after Hashcash.
Okay.
I was in on that briefly. It never really turned into anything. But from there, and then joined Bitcoin mining. I had a couple of the small socket first and second generation i7s.
Okay.
Those were some very nice chips.
Yeah, that was what were they? Was it like 900s or something, or that was even before?
No, the 900s were the big socket.
Okay, that's right.
The small sockets were the 870 and the 890. Those were the main models being sold in Asia.
Okay.
At the time, I was living in China, so I'm not quite sure what was on the market in the rest of the world. I had one of the few 890s back then, and it would mine at, what was it, 45 kilo hash after tweaked the very first Bitcoin wallet a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
That was fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
mined for the longest time with a laptop, which I managed to get stolen.
Oh no! How'd that get stolen?
I fell asleep on the bus.
Oh, okay.
I was a dead broke teacher.
Yeah.
I fell asleep on the bus. Instead of wearing my backpack, I was sort of snuggling it, and I woke up and the damn thing was gone.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Guess that's what happens.
That was a lot of BTC that will never move again.
Do you track that address still, just to see?
No.
No?
No. No. That's around 500 blocks that aren't going anywhere.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. So I assume you moved into GPUs after that for a little while, but Raptoreum decided to stick with CPUs primarily. Is that correct?
We don't have anything against GPU mining. We just like to keep it balanced out so there's not too big of an advantage for the GPUs over CPUs.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, we're currently profitable on some of the absolutely smallest GPUs available. Stuff like the RX 550.
2
GB.
Yeah. Okay.
because they use almost no power.
Right.
So they will actually hash RTM profitably at the moment.
Okay. Cool. Good to know. There you go, guys. Check out the
I
RX
mean,
550 on Raptoreum. Because I did have a few questions about the algorithm, because the algorithm has been adopted by a ton of different coins. But it was originally developed for Raptoreum, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
I mean, it's not just been adopted. They've chosen, a lot of places have chosen to go with our entire code base.
Okay. Yeah. Just completely fork Raptoreum.
Yeah. And I believe there are a couple of places that are looking at forking our code base and changing it to GPU algorithm as well.
Okay. What would that involve? Just kind of curious.
Really only changing the proof of work algorithm.
Okay. So you change the algorithm completely. So go off of Ghostwriter to something else like ProgPow or something.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hopefully not ProgPow.
Be careful, sir. Be careful. We get the ProgPow fans up there, up in arms down there. ProgPow's been everywhere lately, right? As well. I mean, Ghostwriter for sure too. I see those pop up probably more on new coins or early coins than any other. Is Ghostwriter and then ProgPow for the most part, right?
It's basically the two ones where you can have a reasonable amount of certainty of nobody coming on with a ton of hash and wrecking it.
Right. And as far as like Ghostwriter is concerned, it can you explain to me how it discourages specialty hardware such as ASICs and FPGAs?
By basically being very complex.
Okay.
It's got a lot of randomized functions in there, and these functions are, how do I explain it? Let's say you've got a superhighway.
Okay.
You've got each traffic lane.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff will go in very narrow lanes that will run very fast. Other parts of it will require an awful lot of space and move very slowly. So this is just an analogy. It's not the full technical,
I understand.
But that makes it very difficult to compress into a standardized format like you would use on a chip or you would use when programming an FPGA.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I think that's a pretty good basic understanding of. I mean, like basically imagine a superhighway with a carpool lane, and then all the slower traffic on the right side, right, with wider lanes, and that's where your truckers are going or whatever. And then maybe in the carpool lane, you got smaller cars with just a couple people blazing on down the road. And because of that, it makes it difficult for specialized hardware to.
It's not the be all end all solution. There is no perfect solution for it, but what we've got is something workable.
Mm-hmm.
It does come with its own problems. We've had to in the wallet. We've had to include something called POW cache.
Okay.
Which is basically a cache, just a DAT file with all the block headers in it.
Okay.
So after the wallet downloads and validates all of them the first time, it stores them, because otherwise it would become unbearably slow. You've seen some of the older Kapow chains,
right?
You can see how painfully slow it is for them to validate a wallet, to load up a new wallet,
right? Okay, so that
without using a bootstrap or something like that. Then what we've got is some of the components on there, we can change the memory parameters for them.
Okay.
Which means we can essentially adjust the width of the lane on the highway.
Okay.
Which means once we start seeing nonce is consistent with FPGAs or ASICs on the network. We deploy that, and then that starts becoming one of the randomization components. And every time that happens, it will literally brick an ASIC. And for FPGAs, it will require a rewrite unless you buy some of the boards that cost an insane amount of money. Not like the boards currently used in mining. They're $3 to $4, $5, in some cases, $1,000 boards.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking a couple of orders of magnitude beyond that.
Beyond that. Okay, I got you. So
it's going to be a long time before those are commercially available.
Well, and even then, right? I mean, you look at the FPGA market right now, and I was just dealing with one for like the past year, and I would be like, "Hey, can I get those?" And they'd be, "Yeah," and I'd write a purchase agreement, and I send it to them, and they'd be like, "Well, they're ROIing really good now, so we're just gonna keep them." And then like a year later, they're like, "Hey, we want to dump them," and I'm like, "Well, why are you dumping them now?" Like, you know, and so it seems like a lot of the distributors at the distributor level, and even at the manufacturer level to a certain extent, most of the FPGAs are mined on in-house, and then you kind of everybody gets the scraps afterwards, right? Which I think is why you talk about. Yeah, go ahead.
At the manufacturer level, what happens a lot nowadays is that there are other customers that have priority over the crypto industry.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the use cases for many of these FPGA boards are in things like radar systems.
Okay.
Which, because of fucked up politics, are becoming something that people are switching more and more money into buying.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. It definitely does. So Raptoreum has a ton of different things going on. There's a lot of different pieces. Not only is it a proof of work coin, right, that focuses kind of on that anti-ASIC and FPGA model of proof of work, but you also have EVM compatibility, to my understanding.
No.
Well, okay,
no.
Go ahead.
We are doing our own integration of Apache's Spark VM.
Got it. Okay.
Apache Spark is essentially what runs Twitter.
Okay.
That's why Twitter can actually function as a global app. There are different nodes connected all over the globe that link up and work as a global app. It's proven, tested technology. It works really well. It doesn't require AWS bills of thousands of dollars a month to run.
Mm-hmm.
It can run and scale and participate even with relatively small servers.
Okay. And then so the purpose of that is to be able to lower the barrier to entry on the developer side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Because we're not going to release it all in one go, because that would be that would be a disaster. Once we're done with the integration, we are doing some transaction decoupling, moving asset transactions, time-locked transactions, even regular sends. We are moving those slowly and steadily onto side chains. Would be one way of explaining it.
Okay.
Other people might think of it as shards. It's actually somewhere slightly in between the two.
Okay.
Where everything functions sort of like, are you familiar with the Komodo ecosystem?
Yes. Yeah. I have a few different parallel chains or side chains I've built over there. Just to learn.
Yeah, but it essentially works like some of the notarizing self chains, but instead of notarizing on Komodo, it notarizes on the main chain, which will just contain Coinbase transactions and the notarizations from the side chains.
Okay, perfect. Got you. And so you mentioned, of course, the layer one smart contracts on that as well. Briefly, they're assets, right?
Yeah, but
What?
they're not actually contracts as such.
Okay.
They're part of the same layer and level as the coin,
Right.
which means to attack them, there isn't some kind of dinky wrapper like Solidity or something like that on there that provides an extra attack surface. You have to attack the whole proof of work chain to do anything to them.
Right. And that's similar to what we've seen with like something like Ravencoin, right? I think Ravencoin was initially kind of started
Yes.
with that layer one assetization or whatever.
Yeah, but that's what essentially what they have. Yeah.
Okay.
But in a more scalable, more automatable manner.
Is it more
Meaning,
scalable because of the side chains?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's how we are scaling. And for the automation, if you fund an automated transaction, all you've got to do is provide the sending address and show that there are still funds in the sending address. And it will continue this automated transaction until doomsday or until there are no more funds there. That means things like vesting contracts that you see on Ethereum or BSC frequently being a problem. They're just not a problem anymore.
Okay. Gotcha.
Because you can't attack the contract. You have to attack the whole proof of work chain.
Right.
Which is a much more complex undertaking.
And
I mean, you can 51% attack us now,
right.
but the only thing you can change by 51% attacking RTM at the moment is the block rewards from the last block. You can't orphan any transactions. You can't go back and rewrite history like you can on some of the other proof of work chains, because we've got the chain locks from Dash. Dash made an incredible innovation when they put that out, using these distributed BLS keys to sign the individual transactions permanently to the chain.
Okay. Gotcha. And then the big one I think a lot of people are curious about, of course, is the gaming development that's going on. There's an entire MMO that's being developed in early stages as well.
That is more Charlie's side of the project than my side of the project, but it's ongoing. It's slow going. A couple of the developers involved in it also work on building flight simulators for the defense industry.
Okay. So they have a lot of work to do.
Given politics at the moment, things, it's not going as fast as we'd like.
Priorities have shifted currently due to other factors. Yeah. Gotcha. That makes sense. So I have one big question, and this happened a long time ago, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it. Raptoreum, quite a while ago, decided to go from being, I guess, anonymous to doxing the entire team, including yourself, of course. What were the thoughts behind that, as far as what are your thoughts on that, I suppose?
No, but I mean, if you're investing in someone who's building an ecosystem, you should be able to know who they are.
Okay.
We're not talking about building specialized privatized transactions. In that case, there's absolutely no reason for anybody to know who anybody is. But
so if
we're building
about like Zcash or Monero or something along those lines, for example,
something like Monero or Pirate,
yeah.
Not Zcash is the thing that wasn't.
No, I agree. I was just off the top of my head, kind of going.
But yeah, and I mean, I've been public for, God, 10, 12 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I was on China Central Television in either 2010 or 2011. I can't remember now, talking about Bitcoin. I ran a small shop on Taobao, which is the Chinese version of eBay, where traded game currencies.
Okay. Perfect. One of those.
And game currencies, Liberty Reserve, Perfect Money.
All of that.
Yeah. And I mean, I've never seen anything as stupid or as inept as when the EU and the US decided to start trying to regulate the crypto industry. Because,
well, that was one of my questions too, is like, it's kind of a double-edged sword from the perspective of doxing for projects a lot these days, because you just from what I've seen, the way due to regulations, right? You can, if you're doxed, you have potential to, I mean, depending on what, I'm not saying your team like Raptoreum is doing this, but you can get access to certain markets, right, by doxing yourself that you wouldn't have access to without that, right?
Yes and no. I mean, it depends on, for most, if we're talking about exchanges, it's mostly a question of, do you have a solid legal opinion? Do you have a Howey memorandum from a respected, reputable law firm? And I mean, we had that before anything was really published, other than me.
Okay.
Because I haven't been private for many years. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I've had people show up and try to hack me and not believe. I was on Bitcoin Talk from the very start, and one of my accounts was in the very first Bitcoin Talk hack.
Okay.
And somebody had actually managed to track one of my emails.
Gotcha. Got down to that
And
level.
yeah, because they thought, hey, he must have thousands. I'd bought and sold millions of Bitcoins by then.
Yeah.
Like millions. And it was probably the same few thousand BTC that was actually bouncing in and out of the shop. But he showed up here in Malaysia. When was that? About 4 years ago now.
Okay.
Tried to rob us.
Oh man. At the shop?
No.
All the
I
way.
lived in Cebu.
Okay.
But that was hilarious. That was really hilarious. You don't try to rob somebody who lives in a swamp and has 10-foot crocodiles in their backyard. That's really not a good idea.
It didn't work out.
No, it didn't work out. All of my neighbors I went out, had a little yell at him, and then all of a sudden all of my neighbors come out with shotguns. And they're just standing there looking at this guy, and this guy, he just sits down on the ground and gives up.
Well, I'm done. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So kind of going back to the decision to go ahead and dox the entire team. Was there a ton of discussion behind it prior to that? Were there some pros and cons that you guys listed out? Would you mind sharing any of those just for future projects?
I mean, we were looking at what do we get out of it. We were kind of at what do you call that kind of stage where there wasn't too much stuff going on because development was being a little bit slower than planned. Well, here's something else to talk about. We were planning to do this anyway, but not until we had features development a bit more complete than what was planned.
Okay.
Because we are planning to essentially develop RTM up till we have the features we've laid out in the white paper.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to slowly move it over into some kind of DAO or foundation.
Okay.
Democracy and the development process don't work very well together.
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
It's very simple. It's too many opinions on how to do something.
Gotcha. Okay.
You've got to have somebody who knows, and Tree knows. He knows what he can make work. He knows how to make it work, and he can explain it and lay it out why it's going to work. And he's happy to prove it. It may just take a bit of time to do so.
Right. And Tree, for everybody that's curious, that's the lead developer, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And he's the one that worked on or invented Ghost Rider, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Cool. Awesome. Just so everybody knows. What's your favorite thing about Raptoreum?
The community.
Yeah.
We have got such an incredible number of people who are building all kinds of weird things. I mean, so much stuff going on.
Yeah.
From like the people I talked to this morning in Kenya, to people who are building an NFT marketplace, to a couple of people I talked to because of my old job teaching. And they are sort of working on trying to build what I'd call a learn to earn platform.
Okay. Nice.
Where I'm providing the technical assistance for it.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like if you think faucets, but with a purpose, rather than just getting paid for watching ads.
Right. There you go. So the learn to earn. That's an interesting one as well. So where can people find you, and where can people find more information about Raptoreum?
Our Discord server is the best.
Okay. Definitely get that to me, and I'll put it in the description below so everybody can check the description below and head on over to the Discord. And then you got Raptoreum.com for the website, and then of course the Twitter handle at Raptoreum. Crypto Twitter is a fun place to be sometimes.
It's a hot mess. Crypto Twitter is a lovely hot mess.
Try to explain technical details of a project in 240 characters or less.
But I mean, I can remember back when Jack was a cool kid on Bitcoin Talk saying, "Hey, check out my Rails app."
What was Rails?
Ruby on Rails.
Oh, Ruby on Rails. Yep. Okay, gotcha.
That was what Twitter was, well, still is mainly built in.
Right. Okay.
But it was cool back then. It was, you could for $10 buy a 25,000 follower account.
Yeah. Fun. And Raptoreum's had a good week in price as well, too. Up 60% for the week.
We had the best trading volume yesterday we've had in ages.
And I'm starting to see a cup formation here, a little teacup getting ready to go, it looks like. So for those that are interested.
It could be.
Could be, you never know. We still need to get that cup fully formed and a little handle, but you know, we'll see what happens. Pretty good week for Raptoreum. Good for the miners, right?
It's good for everybody.
Yep.
It's good for the project the whole way around. And I mean, we've got so much more going on. We've got a DeFi project launching as well.
Okay, cool.
Called nowput.finance. That's where the MVP is up. The MVP is actually down today, but it should be back up again tomorrow. We're switching the data provider for it over to direct from exchanges rather than CoinGecko.
Okay.
And the project website is nowput.org, but it's going to be contractless DeFi.
Okay. Interesting.
Where we're going to move back to some of the really old stuff from Bitcoin. We're going to go back to where Vitalik originally wanted to put smart contracts on BTC, the op return field.
Okay.
Which some projects also use for messaging. But basically, if you put a tag on a transaction, BTC, let's say BTC-C-3600, and you send that in to a given address. Do you know what a ZMQ notification is?
No.
Okay, there are two ways wallets can get notified of transactions.
Uh-huh.
One is when they enter the mempool, but ZMQ notifications should essentially be when the sending wallet broadcasts to the mempool.
Okay.
So close to instant.
Right.
Very, very close to instant. So the second you click send on that transaction in the wallet, on the other end, it should get a timestamp. That timestamp is used to determine your entry price. The 3600 is the number of seconds in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And you have just taken out a call option on Bitcoin that lasts for an hour.
Okay.
After that hour, you will either get paid out or notified of losing.
Right. Okay. And that is what you're going to, and this is for people to understand, this is going to be basically DeFi on that kind of layer one. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Cool. And that's nowput.org.
Yeah. And there are plans to open source the matching engine. The wallet handling, we're not going to open source because that's obviously a risk to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the matching engine, the feed, how to aggregate the feeds, that is eventually going to be open sourced. It's going to come in stages.
Okay.
So slowly and steadily, basically a full-fledged DeFi option for a lot of projects. We're initially working with RTM, Naut's own chain, which is a fork of the very latest Peercoin,
Okay.
which has Bitcoin Taproot and everything like that in there.
Okay.
So that no one has any concerns about this also working on their Trezor wallet, because from a Trezor, you can add op return messages on LTC, BTC, BCH.
Okay.
And we will be offering that as well on the platform.
Nice. Awesome. Well, all that sounds extremely exciting. What else does Raptoreum got going on that we should be aware of?
A lot.
Is there anything big that we maybe didn't touch on? I know there's a lot going on.
We've got a lot of NFT collaborations in the very early stages. The biggest thing is the vendor platform we are planning for when assets go live.
Okay.
Work has started on that. We've got a waiting list of smaller businesses, not like a ton of them, about 90 some, I believe, at the moment.
Okay.
But
That's
who've actually agreed to sign up on the platform and to try the free version, which will be linked to our testnet. And hopefully that will bring a few of them onto the paid version, which is our mainnet.
Okay.
So giving NFTs a purpose, what they can do on there is they can take quality information. They can take quality information, upload it onto either IPFS. We haven't finalized 100% how many different protocols we're going to support for data. but let's just say IPFS for simplicity's sake at the moment.
Right.
They can upload that data onto IPFS, let's say videos of their production facilities, video of product being made, product coming in, how it's handled. And then we will create a token, an immutable token for them.
Okay.
On the platform. And that will give them a QR code they can label their product with.
Okay. And that helps the buyer also kind of confirm that there is the product is real, right? Which actually could help a lot within cryptocurrency right now, especially the mining side. I don't know if you've seen this Ice River company jumping around with the Caspa ASICs, and everybody trying to get proof of life, and you know, people don't want to just drop Bitcoin to them and in hopes that they get delivery of this $30,000 machine that would make $1,200 a day or whatever ridiculous amount of money it's supposed to do at this point, 2 terahash a second at some awfully low power consumption.
With Casper, you've got to look at how long would it make that money.
Right. And that's a big thing that, you know, if those are into production and they hit, one of the things that I've always told people about a lot of that stuff is like, it always feels like by the time they're ready to sell it to the consumer, it's not going to be worth anything about a week after shipments go out. Right. And that's kind of the way it goes, right? The Antminer D9 will probably be one of these big ones, of course, here that launches soon. That looks really good right now. I think shipments are going out this month. And then once everybody has their D9s online, it's not going to look as good. You know, the KA3 for Kadena here recently saw the same thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it also depends on what a project is using the proof of work for. I mean, Kadena's situation, I can understand and respect that they want to say we are being backed by a heavy, serious investment. That's fine. But at the same time, they are cutting off a lot of their earlier users. So it's going to be a balancing act. It always is. I mean, some projects have, there are a couple of, where are they now? I'm not sure if they're still in the top 100. I don't think so, but somewhere in the top 200-300 who tried to sneakily bring in ASIC development and had developers collaborating with chip foundries in secret. I think you know who I'm talking about. And with FPGA manufacturers sort of or FPGA programmers at least, in semi-private, because they wanted to control the hash rate and use that to control the distribution of the decentralized project. I mean, that's something that's a clear danger sign and should send people running.
Right. But sometimes it's not easy to see on the surface, right? For a lot of people.
It depends on how many places you really are gathering your data from in crypto.
That's a good question. Where are the best places to gather your information these days? I mean, Bitcoin Talk used to be kind of the go-to, but it's not as much anymore. What would you suggest people, what platforms do you suggest people look into when they're doing their research?
I personally have an awful lot of Discord accounts.
Yep.
But I'm also using some of my other background as a teacher.
Okay.
Because there is, in language teaching, we talk about something called corpus.
Okay.
Corpus is sort of a fixed set of text.
Okay.
Like a massive fixed set of text. Like all the copies of the Times from basically back from the first edition.
Okay.
Up until today. Let's say that's one for British English. That's one of the more commonly used corpuses
And
by
what
both
does that do?
Cambridge and Oxford. It gives you a set body of text to work from. So with that set body of text, you can start indexing adjectives by power, by how they're used, and then you can take those adjectives
Okay.
and you can start indexing the conversations that are going around in different places against them.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
that should give you a very accurate either counter trade indicator if you're applying it to news media, because the more bullish the news media is, the more time it is to dump.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
But at the same time, if you also apply it to feeds from project discords,
Yeah.
development discords of different kinds, that kind of stuff, you can get some very interesting tidbits flagged.
Okay. Nice. Cool. Thanks for all the information, man. It was great learning from you, and we'll have to do this again for sure. Where we already kind of talked about where everybody can find you. Do you have anything you want to say in closing?
No, well, come on over and check out Naup. It's going to be a wild ride. I've already got that feeling.
Yeah. And that's NOWP, and that was the nowput.org, right?
Yeah, Nowput for, yeah. Cool. Nowput.finance is the app. Nowput.org is where the DAO is going to be.
Okay. Perfect.
We're going to hand off ownership very quickly to a DAO for this.
Cool.
Because we obviously don't have all the funds needed to fund big BTC, BCH, LTC pools, that kind of stuff.
Right.
We can provide the developing muscle. That's no problem.
Do you develop yourself, by the way?
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
I mostly do bug hunts now.
Enough to get yourself in trouble?
Oh, I've been getting in trouble since long ago. Now, what I'm actually good at is finding bugs.
Okay.
If something in the syntax doesn't match up, I'm usually reasonably good at finding that.
Okay.
And I've been doing so quite a bit.
And I am genuine when I say I want to have you back on. Maybe even in the next one we talk a little bit about AI and its impact on some of this stuff, bug hunts and all that, right?
Yep.
Be cool.
Yeah, but there are some very interesting things going on with that.
Yeah, I've been utilizing it in the kind of the YouTube space now too, in content creation, because it reduces the workload a crazy amount now at this point. It's just nutty.
Oh?
Yeah, title generation, keyword generation, description generations, thumbnails now, automatic editing and captioning, all this stuff is just like all of a sudden things you never thought possible are just there and ready right off the bat. It's nuts. You can record a video, click a button, it shoots it off to some NVIDIA grid servers, runs the AI over it, sends it back to you with the captions already put on it and titles and everything ready to go. It's getting to the point of just unbelievable, to be honest.
That sounds a little bit concerning, actually.
It is. It's very concerning. And it's extremely accurate, too. I will say I did have to train it on Caspa versus Casper, but then once it trained, it never really ever again had to fix it. It just knew what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, that's if learning protocols have gotten that good. I've been very heavily into development and architecting over on Naup. So I haven't followed the latest ChatGPT craze. The only AI I'm really following very closely at the moment is Midjourney.
Midjourney? Okay. Yeah. I mean, Midjourney's a great one.
Is producing some fantastic results from text-based prompts.
There's a new coding plugin too that I was just looking at, but I can't remember what it was called.
Copilot?
Well, yeah, Copilot. Yeah, I've been using Copilot now a lot lately too for bash scripting at work. So it's been fun. But I feel like I do less work now.
Oh yeah,
everywhere.
Everywhere. There is one big thing I've forgotten to mention.
Yeah.
We have got 5 days and our reward decrease starts.
Okay. What are we going from?
We are dropping very slowly and gradually. So once a month, roughly, it's going to drop about 10 RTM per block.
Okay.
So that doesn't leave miners in the kind of lurch that a traditional halving does, where you don't know, should I go on, shouldn't I go on? It also provides the markets with much better time to react, so you don't get this huge pump and dump right on the halving. You can actually get more realistic growth pattern instead.
It smooths it out, right?
Yeah, that's the point behind it, because I mean, the run we had in September last year, it was not last year, year before last, 2021. It was insane.
Yeah.
It was absolutely insane. At one point, we were being blamed for NVIDIA stock tanking. But, and I mean, where is journalism nowadays, man?
Yeah.
If a major Forex news site is blaming a proof of work crypto with a few thousand, okay, more than a few thousand, but with 30,000-40,000 miners on it.
Yeah. For affecting the GPU market. They just wanted to pick an example.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just, how am I supposed to take anything they say seriously ever again?
These days, it's getting harder and harder to find real content, for sure. But I think everybody got to learn a lot from you today. I enjoyed it a lot. Thanks for coming on. I hope that we can do it again for sure.
Yeah.
And I'll try to stop by the Discord a little bit more. I'm in there, but I'm not in there with my main. I'm in a lot of Discords with not my main account, because at this point, it's just
but I'm in fewer and fewer with my main account as well.
Yep.
But I do usually go around if we have an OTC scammer or something like that show up in the community. I do usually go around and take a massive dump on him everywhere where I can find him on all the other servers.
Yep. There you go. Well, thanks for protecting us. Thanks everybody for watching. Hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bells down below. Don't forget, in the description you can find the link to the Discord as well as all the other associated materials to locate and participate within the Raptoreum community. And I will see you next Tuesday. Today's sponsor is myself. I recently launched a crypto mining e-course at sonofatech.com, and it includes 9 steps to cover when you decide to start your crypto mining journey. This is specifically pertaining to 2023 crypto mining profits and taking advantage of the down market to achieve skyrocketing growth as we move into the next halving of Bitcoin. You'll learn buying mining equipment in a bear market, using outside investment to speculative mine, begin mining once profit is established, sell mine crypto to pay for electricity, hold and prep for the bull run, sell at the top of the bull market, sell mining equipment at the top of the bull market, and begin investing in land and power so that you can bring in outside investors to utilize excess resources. Thanks everybody for your support, and I hope you enjoy the course. Let me know what you think of it in the comment section below.